Hey, this is Taze, the vampire authoress, at the top of the recording. Just to say that trigger warnings and a link to the transcript are in the description. As well as this, spoiler warnings for up to Season 3 of the Magnus Archives. And a special shout out to my friend Flag Ninja for lending his voice to this statement. I hope you enjoy.
I'm sure they won't mind me using this. Statement of Brandon Giles on a mine exploration incident in 2022. Date of recording August 11th, 2025. Statement begins. I've always had a love for climbing, both above and below ground, but more than that, I'm a sucker for rock formations and subterranean places marked by the presence of people. Cave paintings, Fuggy holes, subway tunnels, that sort of thing. When I still lived in the US, I went to Montezuma County in Colorado to see the cliff dwellings at Mesa Verde. I've explored nuclear bunkers, disused London Underground stations, and I'm certain I found an entrance to the tunnels below Denver International Airport. I was caught before I could get down there and had to make a speedy exit, but I'll get down there one day though, you'll see. But despite everything, I'd never explored a mine before. I know what you're going to say. We were stupid, reckless, we were obviously going to get hurt. Everything my closest British friend Harry's wife Sam told us. Well, she wasn't wrong, insofar as any underground trek is risky. Abandoned mines are considered death traps by a large number of cavers. There's hidden hazards, potential structural weaknesses, and bad air. We knew what we were doing, but even so, we were unprepared. We never actually expected to find the mine shaft itself. Sam didn't believe us when we said that. If you're hearing this, you've probably listened to Lost John's Cave. You know enough of what it takes to go on these excursions. We were looking for a historical mining site near Nailsea, just to have a look around. Harry even found a set of maps of the site and the mine itself. They weren't the best, but they fired our imaginations. We would be there for a bit, then we were planning to go on to Goat Church Cavern, Harry's favorite local caving spot. It was as sunny of a morning as you get in England. The trees were whispering in the breeze, and the dew was rising as we arrived at what we thought was Elm's Colliery. The first clue that we were in the wrong place should have been the buildings, in that there weren't any, except the hollow remains of a large circular chimney that looked to be around the same era as the middle-engine pit buildings we came to find. I was getting ready to leave, disappointed with the site that was clearly further degraded than the website showed, when Harry gave a yell. He'd found the mine shaft. It was hidden by bushes and covered by a grate, but it was there. It was surprisingly clear for what the internet said had been disused and backfilled for over a century. The shaft was meant to be about 10 feet wide, but this was narrower by a wide margin, only about 5 feet across. We prized up the metal grill, tied our ropes to a sturdy tree, and lowered ourselves down into the pit. I feel now that I should have felt something as we watched the early morning sky disappear. What? I don't know. I only remember the rush of adrenaline. We landed on the compacted floor of the mine. Harry was staring down the tunnel with an expression I'd never seen on him before. I don't think it was fear, not then. Apprehension, maybe. I turned and tried to look into the darkness, too, but couldn't see anything. I fiddled with my helmet, but it was no use. My light wasn't coming on. Harry was worried, but I shrugged. We weren't going to stay long or go far. We were going to stay together, and we had extra batteries in the car. It took some convincing, but eventually he came around. We tramped along the dark tunnels, the stones crunching under our feet, Harry's headlamp casting a single yellowish beam into the gloom. It didn't feel at that point like we were in danger. It had held up all this time. It could hold for 20 more minutes. Harry kept his head tilted to the floor, checking for weakness. I followed behind, mostly unconcerned. Though maybe his light didn't go as far as it should, I couldn't really tell. When he stopped short and got the map out with shaking hands, I didn't understand what was wrong. He looked down at the map and back up at the path ahead of us and back again. I peered over his shoulder, trying to see what he was so puzzled about. We should have come up on the end of the tunnel, according to the map, but instead, the solid floor gave way to timbers wedged between the walls of the shaft and planks balanced on top. They seemed stable, but I had mental images of tiny pockmarks of woodworm of the timber insides filled with rot. Even so, as this apparatus disappeared into the dim and distant caverns, I felt the pull to test it with my foot. An idea struck me. I didn't want to think about it, but if there was so much space underneath the crude structure, was there anything much underneath us? How much earth and wood could hold us steady despite the years of being a working mine? I glanced at Harry's face, shadowed under the visor of his helmet, and I could tell he was thinking something similar. We both stared down the precarious, yet somehow strangely inviting passage. Minutes passed, but it could have been hours. Harry broke the silence. "You ready to go back now?" "Yeah, don't mind if I do." Harry laughed longer and louder than the joke deserved. Then he stopped. He looked down at his feet. I followed his gaze. The floor of the tunnel was cracking underneath him, and before either of us could react, he was plummeting down into the earth like he'd been pulled. His lamp disappeared into the black, and all the light I had was the weak morning sun, barely visible through a hole in the ceiling. I remember thinking that I should run, that I should get help, or that I should make sure he was okay, but I was stuck on the spot, frozen, pulse racing, and left in the dark. There was no way I could see the weakness growing in the floor underneath me, too. My stomach got caught in my throat as the ground gave way. I turned my head and caught a last glimpse of our ropes in a shaft of sunlight, getting left behind. I fell, but I didn't really feel like I was falling. I didn't feel like I'd been pulled, either. I couldn't orient myself. It felt like the blackness suspended me. "Surely, Brandon," I hear you say. "Surely that's the domain of the dark." But no. I can't explain, but that was the blackness of the earth, of the coal pit, of the cave. I felt it swallow me whole. Then I was no longer falling or suspended. Instead, I'd been roughly caught between two rough faces of stone. I don't know how I didn't break anything. I reached for the wall in front of me, my caver's and climber's instincts feeling for holds, trying desperately to get up and out. I couldn't have told you how far I got up the slowly widening passage before my hands and helmet hit the ceiling. Horizontal rock, smooth and unnatural. I moved along and tried again. Maybe it was a fluke, but no. There was no longer a way up. I've never been scared of enclosed spaces before, but claustrophobic terror gripped me so hard I couldn't breathe, and as I tried to figure out how to start again, I slipped from the wall. As I fell again, I recovered myself enough to prepare to brace against the sides of the shaft. I heard fabric rip and felt stone cut into flesh. Pain, bright and sharp, arced through my ankle. Though testing confirmed it was still mostly usable. Any adrenaline I had left was quickly wearing off. My limbs burned with scrapes and exertion, but without other options, I slid myself further down into the cramped darkness. It was tough going. My shoulders felt like they were going to crack. I'm pretty sure my wrist did. I don't remember when my useless light broke completely, the pieces echoing off the walls as they fell. Scraped, bruised, and bloody beyond measure, I continued on. When the squeeze suddenly ended and I fell, landing in what felt like a small layer of spoil, I could only laugh. I laughed when I remembered that the mine shaft should have ended 200 feet down. Wherever I was probably far below that. I laughed as I stupidly pressed myself, completely blind, through tunnels I had no rights going down, made for children or formed by running water. I had no idea. My face was wet with tears. Joyless mirth echoed in front of me. The passage grew tighter and tighter, crushing me on all sides until I could barely wriggle on my stomach. I should have broken bones. I should have stayed put, waited for rescue. But if there was no getting back and no up, then what was the point? No one would find me. I would be down there until I died. It was struggling down the shaft that I reached a slab in front of me. I tried to go backwards, and I was no longer surprised that there was no way back, only another solid wall. I stopped. I realized I could hear my own breathing. I'd fallen so deep beyond despair that I was silent. Then came a new sound, the whisper of dust and grit as it barely trickled from somewhere in the ceiling above me. It was slow, but with the tunnel so tight around me, I couldn't be sure how long it would be before it buried me completely from the belly up. My quiet sobs of fear changed quickly to coughing as the dust caught in my lungs. It itched against my skin where it had got beneath my gear. Then, as if in answer to my coughing fit, I heard voices coming from all around me. The sounds were cracked and hoarse, calling for help, for God's mercy, for anyone. A couple of times I thought I heard Harry among them. Ghosts, I thought then. I know better now. I understand their cries less now. But as I lay there, for what must have been hours, listening to voices that I should never have been able to hear, feeling the constricting press of the dirt as it interred me, I finally accepted that this was not a world that I understood, and I felt peace encased deep in the earth that no sky-high adventure had ever given me. Then the dust stopped rising. I thought my first reaction would have been relief, but it wasn't. I think that was when I received my gift. I wanted so badly to stay there, but I couldn't. I had a purpose. I had so much work to do. I knew I was right when I reached forward and pushed the dirt aside. The way before me was open. I crawled into the new squeeze, feeling something like regret, leaving behind the cacophony of trapped and now angry voices. The laughter started up again sometime after that, as I slithered forward from unknown passage into unknown passage, my hands slick with blood oozing out of the cuts and grazes from feeling my way. On and on. I think I was still laughing when I breached open air through a tiny vent, squeezing out of the earth like a birth canal, though it might have been screaming, but I don't think I was. I don't know what happened after that. I only knew that it was dark, but not the dark I'd been held in, and that I kept falling as I tried to walk. I woke up in the hospital covered in bandages with no idea how I'd got there. Harry was gone. The authorities searched the Elms Colliery site and found nothing but some ruins and a backfilled mine shaft. I was suspected of murder for a time, but my condition was severe enough that they believed my story about a lucky escape from a rockfall, and I got off with a warning. I remember Sam crying beside an empty casket. I wanted to tell her Harry was alive, that he was held in the embrace of the earth, wanted to tell her how she might join him. Instead, I got up and left before she could start screaming at me. I want to go back, but of course it was never really there, and I can't help but feel a sense of loss. I dream of the comfort it would be to be cradled there, forever deep below creation, and wake, leaving smears of dirt on my pillows. And of course, it's now my gift. Upon those I choose, I share that deep and abiding love of the earth that will one day bury us all. Statement ends.
What are you doing in my flat?
Nemo! Oh, buddy, old friend, old pal.
Wrong on all counts. What?
My sib from another crib.
For an avatar of the buried, it's shocking that nothing you've said has been grounded. What are you doing here?
Borrowing your dictaphone.
What for?
Compelled to give my statement. I heard your friends recording, and then my phone got crushed again, so I thought I'd beg use of it, you dig?
What friend? You owe me a favour. Instead of bothering someone else, anyone else, you chose me. You've known me long enough. You know the price of my cooperation. You owe me. Oh, don't worry. Just a small one. I'll even upload the recording for you. Deal?
You're like a goddamn fey. Deal.